Hi, Chris Mc Loone here with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Welcome to this episode of our podcast. Calling this one Special Delivery Extra, and it is talking to the dealer, the manufacturer, and the chief of a department that bought a rig that we profiled earlier in the year in Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. This one comes from our May issue. It was the special delivery for that month. It's the East Litchfield, Connecticut Fire Company, and they ordered a truck from Four Guys. It is a somewhat unique truck. This is the one we're going to be talking about today. It's a somewhat unique truck in that it has those beaver tails that you can see at the back there. You might be able to see it a little better in this picture. So we're going to kind of dig into this a little bit, talk about, sort of some of the challenges that just come up, for the dealer trying to work between the customer and the manufacturer with a unique truck like this. We're going to be getting into some of the challenges. The reason that the truck was designed like this was because of a station. The station had some height restrictions, also some width restrictions, if I remember right. We'll get into that in a minute with the chief. But guys, thank you very much for joining me today. I've got Chief John Caddy, who was the end user there. I have John Cares from Granite. Is it Granite Fire Equipment?
Granite Fire Apparatus.
Granite Fire Apparatus. And Mark Brenneman from Four Guys. I'm going to be talking to them today about that. Guys, I know I just said who you are, but Chief, starting with you, if you could just introduce yourself real quick and just tell us who you are and where you're from, and a little bit maybe about your department.
So I'm Chief John Caddy of the East Litchfield Fire Department. We serve approximately 16.6 square miles of the town of Litchfield. We're one of four fire companies within the town of Litchfield. We're in northwestern Connecticut. The town of Litchfield encompasses 54.6 square miles. Our population's about 6,000. Right now, we're running about 110, 120 calls a year. Kind of hard to predict. We're actually at an all-time high this year. So we're actually trending way up this year. Obviously, fire suppression, rescue services, extrications, and then medical first response in our district is kind of, our bread and butter. This apparatus replaced a 1992 Pierce, or actually a 91 Pierce, which obviously was way out of date and needed to go. As for myself, I'm on my third or fourth year as chief. Actually, it's kind of a family tradition there. My uncle was chief, my father was chief, and now I'm the third caddy to become chief there. Prior to that, I was in the Army. Full time, I worked at an aerospace company, and just kind of leading the torch and trying to lead the department the best I can.
I'm Mark Brenneman. I'm the assistant sales manager at Four Guys Fire Trucks, and I've been with the company for 26 years.
And John?
I'm John Cares. I own and operate Granite Fire Apparatus Incorporated. I am the New England dealer for Four Guys Fire Trucks. I'm going into my 20th year in that capacity. Prior to that, I spent 31 years as a fire lieutenant paramedic with the town of Londonderry, New Hampshire. Prior to that, I spent, and overlapping actually, I spent about 17 years with the town of Pelham, New Hampshire, where I live and grew up as a fire lieutenant paramedic on the call department.
All right, perfect. Well, again, my thanks to all three of you for sitting down with me. I think we have an interesting story to tell, especially as we go from end user through dealer through to the manufacturer. Chief, I wanted to start with you here. Just talk about the challenges involved with designing fire apparatus for your department. Now, you mentioned that this one replaced a 91 rig, but you have more rigs than that in that fire company. And they're all in the same station. I was curious about this particular one, because this is the first one. Have you done one with a beaver tail before like that or no?
No, we have not. So we currently operate four apparatus. We have a utility vehicle, a 2017 Ford Police Interceptor. We have our mini pumper, which is a 2018 Ford F550 on a towing fire body with 300 gallons of water with a 1250 pump. We have our main primary pumper, which is obviously the 2022, 23 Four Guys pumper, as we discuss here. And then our engine tanker, which is a 2004 Pierce. 1250 pump, and 2450 in water.
Now they're all going into the same station, but I mean, like,
Yes.
are all the bays kind of different? I mean, 1949, right, is the station. So are there challenges for each bay, or is it mainly really? Okay, talk about that a little bit.
So the original firehouse, the original part of the firehouse was a 2-bay station. So going from left to right, if you're viewing the station, bay 1 is where the mini pumper is kept. So the apron on the firehouse kind of has a grade as we go up, but it steepens as we kind of go up, and then it tapers kind of off. So bay 1 and 2 are the original bays. Now those bays are 108 inches high and 119 inches wide. So those are our tightest bays. Now, backing into the station for engine 25, being a mini pumper isn't much of an issue. Now, for engine 26, it's a huge issue. I believe, I don't have it in front of me. I have to dig through my documents here. I believe it's a 30-something% grade backing into the station. Now, with the 108-inch door being a consideration, we got to get the truck in the door, obviously, but with the grade, obviously the truck has to get in there, and the rear of the truck is going to keep, being higher before it drops off as the front of the truck continues to climb up the grade. So that's kind of where the beaver tail design comes into play, so we can have optimal clearance for the building. In addition to that, there's a beam in the firehouse about let's say 20 feet in that we need to clear. So that's also a consideration to make sure the ass of the truck is further down enough to make sure that it'll clear that beam before the truck is level enough to be on the apparatus floor entirely.
Well, I've actually seen some pictures on your Facebook page of the new rig in the station, but you have a few you'd like to share with us as well, just to illustrate some of the points you just made.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a picture of our firehouse from the street side. So going from left to right, we have bay number 1, which is where our mini pumper is. Bay number 2 is where engine 26 is, and that's kind of where our highest ramp angle is, based on kind of the departure here and the grade of the ramp. And those are the original 2 bays to the firehouse. The furthest right bay in that whole part of the building is actually an addition that was put on in the late 60s. So that bay is actually the widest. The height's the same, but it's actually the widest bay. So up until 2004, engine 26 was kept in that bay. But then when we got our new tanker, we had to switch things around, and engine 26 went into the middle bay. So due to our tanker being only able to fit in that far right bay, we had to design the new engine to be able to fit in that middle bay. Now, granted, these are pictures from the old engine, which is a little bit smaller than the new engine, but we can see the restrictions we're working with here. So this is pulling the 91 Pierce out. We have about 3 inches on either side. So there's 6 inches of clearance on the truck, so 3 on either side. So as you're pulling it out, it is tight. And keep in mind, this is a smaller truck than the older truck. This truck, the 91, was 113 wide with the mirrors. The current truck is 114.5. So in reality, we have, I'm not too good at math, 114, that's 2 inches on either side, an inch on either side?
It's tight.
It is absolutely tight. You can see right here with the 91, I mean, there's no wiggle room. You're either got it straight and you're going to fit, or you're not.
Well, that's what really makes this an interesting rig, as far as I'm concerned. Like I was talking with Mark and John before you jumped in, and I was saying, this is, since I've been covering the market, I mean, I've seen, depth restrictions, I've seen height restrictions, but never really saw one with the angle of approach that was causing a major problem.
I mean,
like this one.
We had it all. We had angle of approach. We had height, width, length. I mean, we had it all. How do we fit a modern fire truck in this station with width, length, height, angle of approach, and it all? And that was the problem we had to tackle. And coming in, and again, this is a 91. You can see, the how close that truck came to the top of the door sill as you're backing it in. Unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of the new truck readily accessible backing in, but with the 91, a smaller truck, with every degree, how tight it was.
Mm-hmm. So, Mark, when a fire company has a unique challenge like this and approaches the manufacturer, where do you start on your end? I'm going to talk to you in a minute, John, about your how where you working in between the two, but where does Four Guys start with a challenge like this?
Well, one thing we have going for us is we have two engineers who are also firefighters. So they view the fire truck not just as a product, but as a working piece of apparatus, and they can picture it, as a firefighter using that truck. So that's very helpful. And, we take the measurements, we take the list of customer wants and demands, and a lot of times when you're designing a fire apparatus that needs to fit within a specified space, it's a matter of prioritizing what are the most important things for you on this truck and putting those in the most accessible places and kind of burying some of the stuff that doesn't get used as often in other places that are harder to get to.
Now, John, you've got to go between, the manufacturer and the customer on something like this. That's got to be challenging in and of itself as well. What are some of the challenges you end up with, especially with something that's unique like this?
Well, I think I'm the first one on scene, so to speak, when I go down to see the fire company. And I have to say that one of the things that I'm proudest of working with Four Guys is the customization that we're able to do. And the fact that when I call the engineers, they don't call me back and say no. They say, let's talk. And Mark's smiling over here because I can't tell you how many conversations we've had with drawings in front of us, him at his desk and me at mine, saying, how about if we move this here? We just had one the other day, in fact. There's a fire company up here in New Hampshire that's got some unique wants and needs. And we'll spend an hour on the phone just going back and forth about, well, how about if we move this here, and how about if we push this over here, and hold on, let me check with the customer, and back and forth. But we do have some experience up here. I run into this a lot in New England, being the New England dealer. We have so many firehouses up here that are tiny, old. The historical societies don't want them torn down. One of the first ones that I ran into was actually in Rockport, Massachusetts. The Pigeon Cove Firehouse was built in 1862, and it's even smaller than East Litchfield's. It has an 8-foot 6-inch door opening, and we were able to replace a pumper that they had there with a custom pumper. So once we were able to do that so many years ago, I'm not scared anymore. When I meet with the chief like John, and he says we have height and length and width requirements, I go, okay, tell me what you want, and I'll send it down to engineering and we'll figure it out. And we have. I don't think in my 20 years that I've been doing this with Four Guys that they've come back to me and said no, we can't possibly do it. Yes, we can do it, but here's how. This is what we're going to have to sacrifice. And like Mark alluded to, there are priorities, and sometimes those priorities aren't just where things go, but they're things that we can actually do with the truck.
Now, when I came into the fire service a bit ago, beaver tails were very common on the back coming down to the step, to the rear step. Now, Mark, was this the first type of rig with a beaver tail in this location that Four Guys has done?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it. We have done some other things. There was a truck we did maybe 10 years ago that had an upper walkway, and the walls on the sides were notched at the back, And that was because the customer's fire station had a beam that ran across perpendicular to the bays, and they needed to back that truck right up against that beam. And so the back end of the truck was notched out so it wouldn't hit the beam. So, it's not the first time for sure that we've done unique things like this to accommodate a customer's station or, something else within their service area.
Chief, this has got a 1,000-gallon tank, right? Did the rig it replaced have 1,000 gallons?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And was the wheelbase relatively the same? It was just that that rear compartment there does look like it hangs a little bit. You said, is the overall length the same?
So the overall length is actually. So the overall length is actually a little bit longer.
Okay.
We were able to, in the station, to go a little bit longer in the truck, and that was a sacrifice we were able to, to deal with to, gain more storage and usefulness in the truck. So the older apparatus was 30 foot 7 inches. The new apparatus is 31 11 and a quarter. So we're about a foot and a half longer in this apparatus. Wheelbase wide, you have to give me a minute here to pull up the blueprints on the old truck. And I can get you an answer on the wheelbase. I believe the wheelbase is actually shorter on this rig.
Okay. Well, it looks like, making it a little longer, as well as having a 1,000-gallon tank, or you were able to accommodate the 1,000-gallon tank and keep the hose bed on the lower side by doing that, as well as the additional compartmentation.
No, absolutely. I mean, the hose bed is absolutely, definitely lower. It's definitely shorter as well because we went with a hydraulically powered generator. So in front of the hose bed is the generator, 15 kilowatts, I believe. So we were able to get all the hose we wanted in the hose bed, which was 1,000 foot of 5-inch Mercedes supply line, 500 feet of 3-inch supply line, and a 250 foot of 2.5-inch attack line with the rear discharge there. So we were able to fit all that hose back there, with a low and shallow hose bed with the generator just above that or just in front of that.
And this is we should probably note here, this is an L-shaped water tank.
Okay.
This is what we refer to as high-low. So it's the water tank is a little higher in the center of the truck, and it's notched down, and it's lower in the rear to give you that lowered hose bed.
Now, one thing I wanted to talk about was if you look at the front of the truck, is the warning lights that you went with. Maybe 15, 20 years ago wasn't as easy to do. We were starting to get into, I think, the strobe lights at that point, which were typically lower profile. But really, the warning lights back then, it was hard to make these work without really, bringing the truck down to still have them available. So if you look at this, if you look at this view, that's the warning light package right there. But if you look at this view, it's a slightly different view. This shows how they were mounted, and just how not only low profile from the top down, but also how far they're really not sticking out of the truck. Mark, could you tell me a little bit about this lighting package here, this warning lighting package?
Sure. So those are Whelen Lindsay 6 lights, and then our electricians fabricated that fixture as a brow mount because there's no brow mount light bar available to fit this vehicle. So, and they're going to hate the fact that we're showing this on here because it's very, very labor intensive to put one of those together. But sometimes that's the only alternative we've got to be able to meet the customer's maximum height.
So custom light bar there really is what you're talking about, huh?
Yes.
Anything else in terms of the mounting that was challenging there? I mean, they fabricated the whole thing. How does it go on to the roof of the cab?
They custom fabricated those mounts as well. So they they matched the profile of the cab and had to weld that. Of course, with stainless steel, when you heat it, it warps. So they had to only stitch a quarter of an inch, and then they'd move to another place and stitch a little, because if you try to do it all in one shot, it will actually warp the mount so badly that it won't fit where you're trying to put it.
John, I wanted to talk to you a little bit, and the chief as well. But John, I want to talk to you about this conversation that you might have had with the fire company there. Driver's side, we've got a combination of door types. We got the roll up by the pump panel there. On the officer side, it's one type of door. What Chief? I'll talk to you in a minute as well. But John, what was the thinking with that? Was that was that from you guys making that suggestion, or was that a request from the fire company?
I think that was a request from the fire company. I don't remember, John. I think we chatted about it, and I don't remember which one of us mentioned it, but it's actually pretty common up here. If the fire company goes with slam doors as opposed to the roll-ups, because of the tight streets, narrow streets out in the in the rural communities, when you have an engineer's compartment, that compartment is the engineer's compartment. So that has all the fittings that the pump operator would need, tools, hand tools, whatever else. So when you're on scene, that compartment stays open almost all the time, and the size of that compartment would dictate a double door. And so with those doors open, that engineer would be skipping back and forth around an open door. This way, with a roll-up door, he opens it, and it's just an open hole he can reach into and get, he or she, I should say, can reach in and get whatever they need out of there. It just facilitates utilizing that compartment, which is almost always open all the time on the fire ground.
Chief, besides what John said, was there anything specific to Litchfield that necessitated that?
No, John pretty much hit it on the head. Being the engineer's compartment, we want that readily accessible to the engineer. And, had that compartment been a single door, I mean, we prefer slam doors just because it gives us extra storage space, and we don't have to worry about the roll components being above there, and we can, just get extra storage out of it. However, with the double door design, due to the width of that compartment, I don't want my engineer having to step around the door. If it had been a single door, I could reverse hinge it and just have him open it and have readily access to it. But being a double door, that's not an option. So we opted for a roll-up door, so he can just send it up, and it's out of his way, and he can get whatever fittings, adapters, hammers, couplings he needs to make whatever connections he needs to get water to the guys that need it.
Now let's talk about the beaver tails. There's hold on one second. Here's a kind of a close-up view of the one on the officer side. There is also storage in there. Is that something that you guys requested, Chief, or was that something that John came along and said, well, we could do this to store this? I mean, you've got your hard sleeves in there. There's a view of the hard sleeves. So I guess it's a little shallow, so you can't put a ton of things in there. You might be able to put some pike poles in there or something as well. Couple things though, is that also accessible from above? Because you do have coffin compartments on the other side. But with a truck like this, where you're trying to, where you have the height requirement, and you're trying to add, as much equipment as you possibly can. You're looking for storage in all types of different areas. So give me the thinking about how you decided on what to store in that area, or how you decided to use that area for storage at all.
So originally in the specification, the hard suction storage was in the upper right part of the apparatus. So that was always going to be a hard suction storage area. Okay. With the beaver tail design, obviously that became a little bit more recessed due to the beaver tail design. So, with the beaver tail, obviously that had to get pushed in a little bit, and now you have that little bit of a step or void space because of the beaver tail. The suction is not accessible from the top. It's a solid walkway, if you will, on top. It does not open. The coffin doors, actually, funny story on the coffin doors, were never part of our design. It's something we never really envisioned. We were at the pre-paint inspection, and we're inspecting the apparatus, and you were climbing all over it, and they didn't have the diamond plate on top of that void space yet. So I see the void space. I'm like, so you're going to cover this with diamond plate? And they're like, yeah. Like, okay, can we put hinged doors on top of this instead? Like, yeah, we just have to box in the scene lights and emergency lights. I'm like, all right, let's do that. I'm like, yeah, I hate to have see void space on a truck when we can use it for storage. So let's put hinged doors on there. And yeah, there's a change order, and there's going to be a little bit of an upcharge, but instead of having a void space, let's put doors on there so we can use it for storage. That way we're maximizing every inch of the truck as possible to store stuff. So the coffin doors were never actually something envisioned by us. It just happened to be when we showed up for the pre-paint inspection, the diamond plate was off that area, and we're like, void space. Let's put something there.
What did you end up putting there?
Right now we have hazmat booms. We have our long-handled brush fire rakes, extra hazmat pads. So a lot of our hazmat stuff's up there.
Okay. Wanted to talk about another storage area that I saw. I couldn't tell exactly what it was right away. So here are your seats. It's seating for 3, right? And what I saw was this, and when just looking at it in the collection of pictures that Mark had sent me, I couldn't tell what that was. We did discuss it earlier, that this is actually going under the seats, correct?
Yeah, so that's a Spartan, a common thing of Spartans. So underneath the forward-facing seats, you have this transverse compartment. Traditionally, they don't come with lighting, so one of the things we asked for was lighting in this compartment. So that lighting is tied to the parking brake. So when you engage the parking brake, this lighting engages. So this is common to, as far as I know, the Metro Star and the Gladiator line of Spartans.
And what did you end up putting under there?
Currently, I believe we have our telescoping streamlight scene light under there, and our traffic control signs.
Okay. Wanted to talk about the pump panel as well. Again, this truck, I mean, a lot of storage, a lot of everything, but there are always trade-offs, and you always have to maybe do everything you can to kind of reduce the length, just to kind of get around. This does look like a narrow pump panel. What can you tell me about the pump you spec'd out, and the size of this pump module?
So I believe it's a Hale DSD. John or Mark might have to correct me on that. I believe it's a Hale DSD. It's a 1500 pump. Two 2.5 discharges on the left. 1 2.5 discharge on the right, a 4-inch discharge on the right, 2.5 discharge on the rear, a 2.5 inch and 3/4 discharge off the front, 6-inch suction on the left, 6-inch suction on the right, which we have a intake pressure valve on. So the goal was to mirror our mini pumper's pump panel as closely as we could, and also have a compressed pump panel to try to shorten the overall length of the truck as much as we could. Obviously, all the gauges we wanted backlit, and basically as much manual stuff as we could put on the truck, we wanted to be manual. It does have a air primer with an auto prime, and something that we added on at the pre-paint conference was a front suction primer. One of the things we wanted from the get-go was a front suction, so we added a front suction primer based on our conversations with the guys at the factory at the pre-paint conference. We added the front suction primer.
I actually just looked this up. Yeah, I actually just looked this up. This is a Hale QMax XS. which is
Okay, I knew it was a hail.
which is the smaller footprint QMax pump.
Right.
And I've been speccing a lot of those because we have the overall length restrictions a lot up here in New England. So this is the Hale 1500 QMax XS. And I don't know if this is the right place to interject this, but there was some discussion about pre-paint conference with John earlier. And I don't know what the other vendors do, but I know that we generally have 2 trips to the factory. And the first one is before the body goes into paint. We bring the fire company down and they go through the truck from stem to stern, and anything that can be customized, we discuss with them the customization, right down to handrails and steps and placement of emergency lighting and scene lighting and the pump panel layout and things like void spaces that we hadn't accounted for beforehand. Because we're such a custom shop, it's really difficult. We have no particular model of truck that we sell. We sit with the customer and say, what do you want? And that's what we build. You know, from rubber to red lights, we build it exactly the way they want it. And that's something that's I think pretty unique to Four Guys. And we do run into that a lot when the customer comes down. They'll say, hey, there's a big void space here. What can we do with that? Well, we hadn't accounted for it, but here's what we can do. So we hopefully by the time they leave the factory, they have everything laid out just the way they want it. And when they come back to pick it up, it's just the way they want it. And that's our little that's my little sales pitch for the day.
Well, that was actually going to be my question, because I was just going to say, Chief has mentioned a couple of times that these things are happening, these changes are happening at pre-paint. And I was going to say, John, Mark, does this create any consternation for you guys when, like at that stage of the game? But it sounds like that's actually by design, that you guys are bringing them right down. But Mark, do you stand there when they're making these requests and, you're kind of say, oh yeah, sure. No, there's no problem. We'll be able to do that. And then you're just kind of like, oh man, how are we going to do this?
I don't actually meet with the customer at the pre-paint inspection. It's our department heads out on the factory floor who meet with the customer. And then after the customer leaves, they come in and give me the business for not getting things straightened out beforehand. So I try to account for as much as possible before the customer gets here, and to only leave undetermined the things that can be easily changed after the pre-paint inspection. If there's any kind of modification. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I think that's our goal. That's my goal as well, to get as much done ahead of time. But I do know that my customers have said to me, we're getting real tired of hearing you say, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it at pre-paint. So I think the answer to your question is there consternation? Yes. Can we do it? Yes.
Right.
Chief, if you're saying something we're not hearing you, are you muted over there?
No. I was just kind of agreeing with what John said there. We'll take care of it pre-paint. I'm like, oh Jesus, okay, yeah.
Chief, how big was the apparatus committee for this? The purchasing committee for this? Did you bring down an army, or was it pretty small?
We just had five people on it. We had two officers, the engineer, and 2 members at large.
It's funny. I have Ricky Riley on quite a bit. He's in charge of a fleet, and he talks about you bring too many people and it's like kids in a candy store when they're walking around looking at all the other trucks and seeing not only like the design features, but also of course like some of the extra items that are carried on them. It must be a nightmare sometimes.
I mean, I don't think we had any shiny objects on when we were at the factory, to be honest, outside of the coffin doors. And here's my extrication stuff now in it.
I actually have for many years tried to convince my customers to put extra money into their quotes, into their specification. Sometimes it's $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 that is just earmarked for contingency. We call it the contingency fund, and we use it for whatever we need to use it for. And as I'm sure John has heard me say, Chief has heard me say, the reason for that is you're going to walk through our factory, you're going to walk through the finish side where we're getting ready to put trucks out the door, and you're going to look at a truck and go, oh, we should have done that. and now you have the money to do it if you really want to do it. It's the wow factor sometimes when you see what somebody else has put on, whether it be graphics or whether it be a piece of equipment or a design feature or something. They always see something down at our factory because we're working on so many unique and different pieces of apparatus at the same time. When they walk through the factory floor, they just go, "Oh, look at that! Isn't that? Oh, look what those guys are doing! That's awesome! Let's do that."
Probably par for the course for a custom shop, right? I mean, if you guys are doing a lot of these different customizations, there's a lot of ideas out there. And I always say we're firefighters; we all steal from each other. All the different ideas. So that probably did you try to nudge them in one direction so that they're not so maybe they don't see something so that Mark doesn't get the business.
I mean, for my part, it's always a balance between how much money they want to spend and what they really need. I like to tell my customers, I'm a frugal old Yankee. I'm not going to sell you something you don't need. But I also believe in spending smart money, and I'm also a firefighter, so I like cool, whirly red things.
So looking at this pump panel up at the top there, are those cross lays?
Yeah, so those are 2 inch and 3/4 cross lays, 250 foot apiece.
Okay, and then on the back here, I wanted to talk about this a little bit. It looks like so how much? There's an LDH section. How much LDH are you carrying on this?
1,000 foot.
5 inch, 4 inch, or
5.
5. Okay, and then I see two spots over here. Now, first of all, one of the cool things about this is they had to be sort of beaver tailed as well a little bit, or cut at an angle as well. Those two the 2 hose beds for the smaller diameter there. Let me come back. But it looks like, is one of these a dead lay and one of these is pre-connected to this? Looks like a discharge here.
Yep, absolutely. So the one on the far left, or the driver's side there, is a pre-connected 250 foot 2.5.
Okay.
And then the middle one there is a 500 foot dead lay of 3 inch.
Okay. And then I forget, Mark, if one of the pictures you sent me has the inside of the roll up there. But talk to me, Chief. What's behind this roll up door here? Is there any? Sometimes people hide an intake in there. What's there?
Nothing fancy. Pull out tray and 2 tow eyes.
Okay. All right. So let me just go through some of the specs here. Just as we talked about, it's the QMax. It's a 1,500 GPM pump, 1,000-gallon UPF tank. It's got the Trident Air primer on it. You mentioned a generator. Is there a lot of? Do you carry a cord reel on here for portable lighting? Is there a light tower? Talk about that.
So we have a cord reel in the apparatus. It's stored actually in the pump house. It's accessible from the officer's side. So if you pull up an officer's side picture of the truck, you can actually see the cutout where the cord reel would come out of. It's, I believe, a 15 kilowatt generator. Yes. Mostly that's going to power our extrication tools. We have a hydraulic TNT pump on there for our hydraulic cutter spreaders and ram. And then any ancillary electric things we need to power, sawzalls, vent fans, you name it, cellar pump out pumps. I'd love a light tower, but unfortunately, I think that would get ripped off on the roof.
That's true. That is true. I wanted to. There's a shot of some of the extrication equipment. I also wanted to talk about this monitor. The monitor at the top, is that pre-piped?
Yes, that is pre-piped on an extension.
Okay, and so someone has to go up there, pull it up, but you don't have to remove it from the vehicle. It's all set right there.
Yep. So that was by design. It was designed to be on an extension and recessed. So basically, you just pull the lever, raise it up above the dunnage area there, and the pump operator can charge it, and you can start hitting your deluge. That is also tied to the do not move apparatus light. So if you try to move the apparatus with the jet gun extended, it's going to yell at you.
Well, I think that's pretty much what I had on this. Again, to me this is just such a unique deal because I don't usually see the beaver tails up that high. So, I mean, great, great by four guys to come up with the solution. And great on you, Chief, to be thinking outside the box on a lot of this stuff. Now, just before I let you all go, just any final comments, John? I'll start with you. Any just final takeaways you'd like the audience to come away with on this truck?
A couple of things. I mean, the first is that while this looks like it was a great deal of work, they all are, but this one in particular, engineering came back with that beaver tail and said, "What do you think the customer will think of this?" I said, "Well, given the measurements, is this what we need to do to get the fire truck into the firehouse?" And they said, "Yeah, to be on the safe side, it might fit in with it squared off, but we'd rather do this." And to John's credit, I sent it down and said, "Hey, this is what we're recommending." And he looked at it and said, "Yeah, that's fine. We're okay with that." So, the collaboration between the knowledge base between dealer and department and engineering, and the fact that we all know we're building fire apparatus, not just widgets, leads to this. The customization of the guys down at the factory, they're amazing with all of this stuff. They've come up with so many solutions over the years. It's incredible. The other thing I will say is that I did bring this to the New England Fire Chief show, and I won't say which vendor we were next to, but we were next to a vendor that had a truck that was 1,000 gallons of water, a 1,500 GPM pump, carried 1,000 feet of 5-inch line. It was very, very similar to this, and it was about half a Guinness tall. And I had many, many customers come by and say, "How much water's on that?" "That's 1,000. "How big's a pump?" 1,500. And they stood there and looked between the two rigs and went, "Huh, that's interesting." So, we're pretty proud of the stuff that we turn out, and this one is one of the ones that we're especially happy with. We were able to meet the customer's needs to a T.
Mark, how about you? Any final takeaways?
All I can think of is, the importance of listening and trying to understand your customer. You don't get to the point of this finished rig without taking the time to listen and understand, and, not try to be selling something all the time, but figuring out how to meet the needs of your customer. And to me, that's what selling fire apparatus is all about.
Absolutely.
Now, Chief, before I ask you for your takeaways, how many times did you measure the opening of the door and everything else? And how nervous were you when that was backing in for the first time?
Oh my God. Oh God. I can't even tell you how many times I measured that door, probably a dozen. And so funny story. So I actually drove this back from the factory from Pennsylvania. So we left the factory at, I don't know, 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's a 6 or 7 hour ride from the factory back to Litchfield. So we rolled into town, I don't know, 10:30 at night. And I love driving fire trucks, but do not drive a fire truck for 6 hours. Don't do it. It's not a good idea. And so we get it back into town. Everybody's, all the guys are at the firehouse ready to see this thing. And of course, the $1 million question, will it fit? I'm tired. I'm exhausted. My back hurts. All right, let's see if it'll fit. In the moment of truth, I got guys holding on, standing on the back step. I got guys standing in the hose bed, crouching down because the hose bed's empty at this time. And we're backing this thing ever so slowly, inch by inch, going in there. And it's like, will it fit? Will it fit? Oh God, I hope it fits. This is going to be embarrassing if it doesn't. And she slipped in like a glove.
Nice. Well, what are some of your takeaways, Chief? I mean, this is a unique rig. You might not design another one like this for a while. What are some takeaways you'd like the audience to have?
I hope I don't have to. The next truck can do. Somebody else can do. I've done 2. Somebody else can do the 3rd. This one. So the first one I did was easy. That was a mini pumper. This one definitely led me to some challenges. Trying to maximize capabilities and storage capacity, and manage the overall height, width, length, and cramp angle coming in was interesting. But working with John and 4 guys, and coming up with the different creative ways we can work around those, whether it would be with the beaver tail or, hey, let's, shove the electric grill in the pump compartment. Hey, do you really need a 28-inch ladder, or can you 28-foot ladder? Can you deal with a 24? We can, put the core reel in there if we do that. Let's design the light bar this way. Working with them, and yes, we'll deal with that at pre-paint was getting old, but we lived with it, and we dealt with a lot of pre-paint, but
it worked.
It worked, and at the end of the day, I couldn't be more satisfied with that truck. I mean, it is such an upgrade and such a capability increase for my agency in the town, and she's a rocket ship. She's a dream machine, and I couldn't be more happy with that apparatus.
Great. Well, again, my thanks to John and Mark and Chief Caddy for joining me today to talk about this rig. Like I said, I mean, it's a unique one. It's certainly the first one that I've seen with that type of design on the back there. Not that not that I'm like I've been around forever, but it's just since I've been covering this is a unique one that I hadn't seen before. So thank you all for sitting down and sharing some of the stories about it. If there are podcast topics that I haven't hit yet, that you'd like to see, please let me know. I'm at chris.mcloone@clarionevents.com. If there are other rigs you'd like me to take a look at and get the chief and the dealer and the manufacturer, I'd be happy to do that as well. Again, chris.mcloone@clarionevents.com. If you'd like to see the archive of our podcast, you can see all of them at fireapparatusmagazine.com/podcast. So again, this has been Chris Mc Loone with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Have a good one and stay safe. Thanks again, gentlemen.